Hello and welcome to this backwards compatible Why Should I podcast. Today we're joined by Chris.
Hello, sorry. A bit of
Uh,
a
no problem. And some of you may know Matt.
Hey.
He's been on the normal main cast, but this is the first time to have him on the Why Should I. So we've got these boys together because they're both fans of a certain resident of Gotham City, and we're going to be talking about the cult series, the Owl series, sorry, by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. So this is DC, and it's all about Batman. So, gents, we'll just start off with the basics. Where have you two grew up? Did you two grow up Batman, or is it a new fancy, so to speak?
It was part of the new 52 run, but
is in your history with Batman?
In history, yes. I mean, I've not been into comics a whole lot. Like, I think Matt's been like more into them than I have, but like I tend to read them when they're collected into like hardbacks. So for me, like I was kind of late to the party of getting to it. But yeah, like probably I think it was like the first DC book that I picked up was the first volume, Court of Owls. And even when I had it, like it took me a while to get around to actually reading it for some reason. I don't know why. I had it sitting on my shelf looking pretty, and then I was just like, I've heard really good things about this. I should actually start to read it.
The infamous pile of shame.
Yeah, the to read pile, to play pile.
And yourself, Matt?
I've always been a Batman fan ever since I was younger, and not so much reading it, but the animated series was always sort of my go-to TV show, and I remember having all the different types of Batman. I'm not sure if Chris remembers it, but in the 90s you had like Arctic Batman and Ground Batman and Jungle Batman, like different things like that in the toys. So I always had the toys, and there's stories of me running around with nothing but a cape on. So it was fun for 21st birthdays and things like that.
That's slightly worrying. See, this is where we have to show our age differences. Is that I grew up with Adam West.
Yeah.
So slightly different, and then obviously the Michael Keaton Batman's, so it's slightly different era, I would say. But okay, so when did you start reading the comics?
3 years ago, I think.
Okay, so relatively new coming to the comics as well.
Yeah, like I had read the important stuff, like through high school and things like that, but getting into some of the not lesser known, but some of the smaller runs and things like that recently. I started with the War Games and War Crimes series and Under the Red Hood.
Yep. So have either of you read The Killing Joke?
No. I know of it.
Yeah, a long time ago.
It's in my to-read pile when I get it.
That's okay. Just checking. See, it's the only one I can really talk about, so that's just completely thrown me out of the linking thing, so that's fine.
This is why we're here today.
Yes.
Get you into the court series.
Definitely. So Matt, for yourself, did you read it issues, or did you read it collectively?
Collectively. Yeah.
Or the Owl series.
Okay. Most of that stuff's before I had any of my own money to spend on comic books. So. I'm
Okay.
just my headphones. Give me a second.
No problem. So, Chris, do you want to give us a little rundown on what the series is roughly about?
So basically, the Court of Owls is, like I say, it's part of the new 52 run. So I think it was just like, new story for new people like myself. Like I've not been into comics a whole lot, and the Court of Owls, the first volume, was like the first Batman book that I've ever bought. I can't think of anything. I don't think I've read like anything previously to that. So yeah, so that was the first one for me. But basically, it's about this ancient organization known as the Court of Owls, which is kind of like a secretive organization. Like even, like in the run, like Batman's kind of like unaware of it to start with. And then obviously, builds up, and then it's across 2 whole volumes. So it's quite a big kind of story. But yeah, I mean, it's all just about like this ancient organization kind of like rising from the depths, I guess. Would you agree, Matt?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Like, according to the story, they've always been there in the back. So
yeah,
all the events that have
in the
led up
shadows, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it lends itself well to sort of part of the new 52 was that they wanted to reinvent some of the stuff, but they didn't want to totally annihilate the stories from the past. So it was a really good way for them to sort of keep the stuff that people had grown up with, and it stops everyone sort of freaking out when they, kill the Joker or Penguin or whatever they were going to do when they restarted the storyline. So all the stuff that happened in the previous comics, that's all still sort of part of the canon, but they've reset the time for Batman, so they've reset the clock for Bruce Wayne himself, and they've introduced a new character without sort of taking away from anything in the mythos.
Yeah.
I will say the whole the principle did seem a little bit like Batman Begins, when you said about the ancient organization in control of everything without actually mentioning themselves.
Yeah,
Feel a bit like that.
I guess it's in a similar vein, where you have like the League of Shadows, but even then, like the League is mentioned in some of the earlier comics in the 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a similar sort of thing there, but they're more about controlling Gotham rather than the world.
Oh, okay.
Like that, yeah, the court themselves. They're sort of ancient Gothamites.
So, are both of you aware of Snyder before this, or is this your first Snyder?
First Snyder for me.
It's the first time I've read any of his stuff.
And have you read more since?
Myself, I've picked up his his kind of own run. Like, I don't think it's a part of DC, the American Vampire series.
Oh yeah, that's first.
So I picked up that as well, and then I've got a few more Snyder books as well. The latest one I got was the Black Mirror, which was written by Scott Snyder. I think it's set after Final Crisis, from what I've heard. I'm not ready yet, but it looks pretty awesome. So I was like, yep, I need this.
So, so from this run, you're saying that you're a bit of a you've found the liking for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Matt, yourself, would you follow more of his books?
I wanted to pick up Wake, which is a newer series that he's been doing. So I haven't got it yet, but that's something I want to pick up. But I haven't read anything like previous to this Batman stuff. But I've known of him, like I've heard his name.
And in terms of Greg Capullo, heard him even before? Have you?
I've heard of him. I know he's drawn the Spawn stuff, but even then, like, I wasn't that aware until like the Batman stuff now.
Would you say the art balances with the story?
I think it works really well. Yeah, he's an amazing artist. Like, there's some really great stuff in both the books. Like, really cleverly drawn stuff. Like, it's great.
He's really good at deciding how he wants the page to look rather than just the individual panels. So he designs the whole page rather than just the panels themselves. So you can sometimes find yourself disorientated, but it's part of the story.
Yeah,
it works really well.
Should we talk about that bit?
Yeah, you can. Welcome to.
So basically, like, I guess, is it in the first book? I can't remember. Or is it the second book?
I think I've got it here, man.
Okay, cool. Like, basically, there's a bit where, like, Batman's kind of in this. I guess he ends up in, like, the kind of underground lair of the court, and he's kind of like trapped in this maze. And as you read the comic, the pages themselves are actually like rotating, so you physically have to turn the book 360 degrees around to like read the panels and stuff, because it's kind of like him spiraling. Like, it's just genius.
So this is the panels as they are, and as you continue you can see it goes sideways. So it's now read top to bottom here, and as you keep going, it's the same there, and then eventually you get to a page that's completely upside down.
Upside down, yeah.
So as you're reading, you've got to sort of follow him around. But there's other stuff in the later comics that he does that is more stylized, I guess, and he takes like an overarching image and sort of turns the panels into that image. Yeah, it's just some interesting.
Pretty cool. I've not seen anything like that, but like I say, like, I'm really new to comics, so it's. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't matter, because it's about if it makes you feel, if it's good and it brings you in, then that's good enough.
But
Sometimes
yeah, definitely, I'm hooked now. Like, it's cool.
I think that's the thing with sometimes when people talk about comics, it's always it comes from a point where you've had lots of experience, so nothing's new. And if you've already experienced that art before, you lose the wonder of it sometimes, and that can be a bit of a problem. I think everyone finds if you get too much of a good thing, it becomes normal.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about new art, so that's fine. But what I really like the sound of it is that it's quite a tactile book. So I'm assuming you both read it in the physical. Both didn't read it digitally. You both read it in a book form.
Book
Correct.
form.
Yeah, because again, I quite like the idea of having to spin round and have a bit of a difference.
It's
So
cool. I mean, I assume it would probably be the same way on the iPad. Like the panels would probably be that way. Like you would have to turn your iPad around as well if you were reading it digitally. But
if you've got the auto rotation, then that was
Yeah.
really screw
oh
it
yeah,
up,
actually,
isn't
that's
it?
a good point.
That you'd be like driving like a car, like a Formula One car. That just wouldn't work. So, is it quite? So, obviously, from the artwork we got there, it was quite dark.
Yeah, some of the later stuff, especially like in the books, there's some really like crazy panels, like really dark panels.
Yeah.
There's, I think it was maybe one of the covers, like for one of the single issues that's somewhere in the book, and it's basically like it's kind of hard to explain. It's like a Batman figure, but he's kind of like really owlized. So he's got like crazy like talon claws, and he like looks like an owl, but it's got like a cowl, owl and cowl. You know, Matt can maybe get it up as well.
I'll see. I never have that issue, man.
I think it's in the book though. I think it's just one of the pages.
Don't worry, it's just something you said. Don't worry about it.
The owl and the cowl.
We should have
But
taken.
yeah, it's cool. It's dark.
It's getting close. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It gives you that nice little distinct vision that is actually more of a bat than a man,
It's
Yeah.
It's cool.
which is cool. And again, it's always the idea about striking fear into the hearts of people, which always should be the thing that Batman does.
Well, the cool thing is they again touch on Batman's sort of origin. So obviously he was killed. His parents were killed in an alleyway by a criminal, and they do reintroduce that into the story and sort of make the court, I guess, make sense in his world. Yeah. And they do it in an interesting way. So then you sort of second guess what you know about the story already and look for like signs in the book that you've already read. So it's cool.
Yeah. Like it's not like directly an origin. Like I remember when I first picked it up, I was expecting the new 52 stuff to be like completely starting from the start. You know, like completely like, oh, this is how Batman became Batman kind of thing. But you know, I was surprised when it started with Batman already being Batman. I was like, oh right, okay then. You know, it just gets like straight into it, and you know, it's really easy to read. Like it's good for first timers like myself at that point.
So, so is it Batman by himself, or is it Batman with Robin or Nightwing or other parties, or is that a spoiler?
No, not at all. It's sort of set after the first three Robins have been Robin, I guess. So I'm not sure if this is a spoiler, but Damian, his son, who was like born sort of behind his back and raised by, I think, the League of Shadows, I guess. Talia, it's her son as well. So Batman and Talia had a child. I think that's in a run in the 80s. It was never mentioned again until sort of recently. But anyway, he's the current Robin. And you have Nightwing, Tim Drake, is that his name? And you have the Red Hood, so Jason Todd.
So there's quite a few. There's a bit of a twist of characters within the show.
Yeah, like they're all there.
In the show book, sorry, it's not a book. Yeah.
So yeah, and again, it's because they didn't want to start all that again. They didn't want to delete all the Robins and start again. They wanted to keep that part of it, so that anything you had previously wasn't chucked in the bin, which is something that, like, I guess you look at what Disney are talking about doing with Star Wars, and you wonder why they're doing that. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about the way that they're treating their old canon and things as sort of junk that they're just going to put aside, and I'm glad DC didn't do that. So,
But does this make you want to go back to pre-52?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
What 52?
Pre-52.
Oh, pre-52. I've already started reading pre-52 stuff like Hush. is one of the latest ones that I've read, and then Final Crisis as well, which I think is Final Crisis like the kind of beginnings of the New 52 at that point. Matt, maybe, maybe you know.
I have no idea. So the DC is far out of my remit. So this is why you two are on.
I think that was the end of that was the start of the end for the old lines,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell. And then Batman sort of disappears for a while in an alternate dimension.
Yeah. So that's where the Black Mirror comes in. But like I say, I've not read that yet. I just know it was like, oh, it's written by Scott Snyder. It's supposed to be like a must-read Batman novel,
Yeah.
from what I've heard. So I'll get to that at some point.
Cool.
Couldn't wait.
As a new if you were going to sell the book in a few easy sentences, I won't restrict you to two. What would you say to somebody?
I would say it's nice and easy to read. Like I say, straight off the bat. Straight off the bat. The artwork's awesome.
The puns.
So many puns. The artwork's awesome, and it's just like a really good overall story. Like, you know, the core organization just seemed like really wicked bad guys. Like, and then obviously with the newest one, like Talon, who's kind of like the main bad guy from the court. It's just really awesome. Like some of the scuffles like Batman and Talon get into through the book are ace. So yeah, it's good. You should pick it up, guys.
And Matt?
I think it doesn't dump the storylines from the previous comics, but because they're using a new villain that no one's seen before, you don't need to know any of the stuff that's sort of expected of you. So sometimes I find with older books, they introduce characters halfway through them. You're supposed to know their backstory and their weaknesses and who they are and things like that. And because this is a brand new character, you learn all that in the book. The only person you don't really learn a lot about is Batman, obviously, but hopefully you know a little bit about Batman before you read it. But they do help you out with that stuff as well. So that's why I really like it, because it's a good kickoff. It's a good entry point.
That's great. So that makes complete sense. I'm going to have to ask you both one silly last question. Favourite Bat villain? Chris?
Bat villain. I really like the Joker just now. Like, again, Volume 3 of Snyder and Capullo's run, Death of the Family. The Joker is absolutely, like, utterly insane in that entire book. It took me probably, I don't know, like probably 2 or 3 months to actually read it, because I kept getting to parts which were just so extreme I had to put the book down. I was like, I can't read any more of this today, like it's just mental. So yeah, I'd say the Joker, and I think just because he's like such a well-known bad guy, but the way he's handled in these comics, I think is the best that I've ever seen him. So yeah, I'd say Joker.
And Matt?
Awesome.
I guess it's pretty easy to say Joker, but
Yeah,
like I just really like the sort of the filler between the main characters, where you have him just sort of fighting crime in the city itself. Like I always really enjoy those bits between like the main storylines where he's out, you know, on the beat, sort of just prowling and sort of keeping an eye on the people of Gotham, and you know, you'll see him fighting a guy in a corner shop and things like that, and I really enjoy that part of it, because it sort of makes him seem sort of omnipotent, like a god.
So, sorry, I did say one last question and I completely lied. If you, I'll start off with Matt this time, if you were going to live in Gotham, would you move away? Sorry, it's a stupid question.
No, I guess it matters what Gotham.
I was in any Gotham. I mean, any Gotham, because it seems like everyone who lives there, why the hell do they still live there?
Yeah, I know, right?
There must be something. There must be something.
Yeah, I can't quite figure it out. There must be like wine flavoured water or something. I'm not quite sure. But it just seems like why would you live there? Why would you move there? It just seems like an illogical place to be. So.
If there was the possibility of being able to live in Gotham, but also being able to go to like other cities like Metropolis and Starling City and Coast City and all those made up cities in that DC universe, then probably yes.
I'd move to the animated series Gotham, like the 1920s style, like blimps in the air, awesome cars,
Yeah.
sort of martini glasses, and yeah.
And any car with a longer hood than it's got a body is always a bit of a worry. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you both for coming along and talking to us about the court battles. And I'm sure we'll speak again about Batman another time. So, Chris,
Thank you.
and Matt, thank
See you later. Thanks.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye. And now we'll just do the quick roundup. You can if you want to speak to Chris on Twitter, his Twitter address is
Murray C89.
and Matt's is
Wait a second. It's M Taylor. No, what is it?
Tables have turned, Matthew.
Oh man, I'm so bad. I don't really tweet to myself. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for Matt to jump on, the site is at backwards.com. I'm at Willbinosteo, which is WELLINGOSTEO. So don't ask the dyslexic to spell out loud because you'll always get cocked up. So I do apologise completely for that. We are Backwards Compatible. Please check us out online. And obviously we have got a Twitter, as you already said. Facebook is Backwards Compatible, and we also run a G Plus page, which is also Backwards Compatible. Obviously, this is our shorter cast. We do also do a longer, more topics-driven cast, so please do subscribe if you like either. And that's you've got your
Yeah, it's M Taylor 138. Matt Taylor 138. Sorry.
Oh, the other option, of course, as I always say, is just to go to the site, and on our site profiles, you can just click on the links there. I would have done that to Matt earlier, but I just wanted to see him squirm.
Thanks.
It's a lot more fun to do it that way. So, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again another time. Take care. Bye.